Hello, this is Christopher Kennedy with Mastering Color Grading in After Effects, and we're going to look at another difficult shot in this lesson. The idea being that again we want to make the actor stand out from the background. When you watch this shot, I actually quite like it. The lighting isn't really right. She's lit with the same sort of intensity as the background. That's not ideal. What you always want is for the actor to pop off the screen as though they're standing out from the background. If the background's brighter, they tend to fade away. So this will be a very difficult shot to correct because her skin tone, as you can see, is very similar to the tone in the background, and any changes we make to that background will probably happen to her as well. So let's have a look. It's called Look Across. We'll go into the full interface. When we looked at this earlier, you may remember there was an area up here that was so badly blown out that when you look at the scope you can see that the gain has struck that 100 line and that area is clipped. There will never be any detail in it. That's how it was shot. So in fact we think of these areas here at the top of each color, red, green and blue, as being the top of our gain line, and that's the area that we don't want to strike the 100. We can let these bits already hit it, but let's try and keep these away. Now in fact we can play a little reverse trick here to separate the actor from the background. Because there's so much white and brightness back there, rather than trying to darken the background and lighten her as we normally would, we can lighten the background. I'll show you how this works. In the master tab of RGB I'm just going to lift the gain, and I might bring its pedestal down, maybe it's camera, might lift it some more. There we go. The white there is burning out, it's blowing out all over the place. It's technically completely wrong, but in actual fact she stands out a lot better than in the original flat shot. I quite like the flat shot, but if you want her to pop off the screen, that is one way of doing it. It's the opposite of the normal approach, but it just shows that you can get creative and find solutions that work. If you want the audience to focus on your actor, blow the background out. However, to show how far you can go using the RGB controls to correct something like this, we'll reset all and start again. So in the Master tab, I'm looking at the pedestal. It's a bit high above the 0 line, so we'll bring that down. We can take the gain up a little, and then we might brighten the gamma slightly. Now let's go into the shadows. Again, I'll bring the pedestal down. Might have a look at lifting the gain. That's quite pleasant, just touching the bottom of the midtones there. Still quite a pleasant looking image. If we look at the source, it's changed a bit, not too much. Let's go to the midtones. Now the normal technique here would be to stretch these to bring the pedestal down and the gain up. The problem, as you may notice as you watch this, or if you're getting very skilled at this if you watch the scope, is that that background area, that wall, is changing exactly as her face changes. So we've achieved almost nothing. If you look at the source compared to this, what we have now is brighter, but the flatness is still there. The face originally matches the wall, the face still matches the wall. So the area that we can work with is the highlight area. Let's go into the highlights, see what we can do. If I pull the gain down, the problem we immediately have is that this area up on the top left gets clipped and looks cartoony, which is a shame because that actually, if you look at that background now, it looks quite dull, and having dulled out, the foreground actor looks much clearer. So that is a compromise you could make. You could say, I don't care about that sky clipping out, let's just do that. That's a solution right there. But if you do care about the sky clipping out, which normally you would, you could try pulling the pedestal of the gain down. Again, that is working, but you can see we're creeping into the midtones there and flattening those a little, making them more saturated too. Just look at the source, and now our result. What we've got there is in fact pretty good. There's a reddish tinge to the highlights now, and it might be worth trying to reduce that. We're going to use some completely different controls to do that, at the very top over here we have the HSL tab. That stands for Hue, Saturation and Levels. And under Controls and Highlights, we can just bring the saturation slider right down. Now if you look at the image, I'll just push the slider right up. You can see there the highlights are partly in her face, but mostly it's that background area. So if we pull this saturation right down, the background becomes less saturated. Might be worth going into the midtones and just increasing the saturation ever so slightly. And there we have one solution to this. That's not too bad. It still looks quite flat, it's not perfect, but it shows what you can achieve if you've got a really difficult shot. However, in reality, if I was faced with this shot, I would start using some of After Effects' built-in tools. Color correction isn't just about using color finesse or using the built-in color tools that are inside After Effects. You have levels, controls and color balance, and very similar tools are in After Effects already to the ones you find in color finesse. But instead of doing that, I'm going to use masking and animating a mask to create a better result. So I'll just reset this, and I'm going to make two copies. I'm going to call the top copy Bright Foreground, and I'm going to call the bottom copy Background. So with the background selected, I'm going to click on Full Interface, and now I'm only looking at the background, and I want to make it dark. The RGB tab and master, let's see, should I just pull the pedestal down, darken it? How dark do we want it? You can see there's so much we can do very quickly. If we ignore the face and don't worry about it, you can see that background looks great now. It's nice and blurry. The tree over here is showing up pleasantly but isn't dominating the frame. If she were perfectly lit, all would be well. So I'm going to click OK. That background is great. You can't see it unless you go down here and click that eye. There we go. Click it again. So now in Bright Foreground, I'm going to click Full Interface, and I'm going to look at her face only as I work here. So it's pretty good already. I'm not too worried about it. Just a few adjustments. I didn't even talk you through those because you should be used to doing this now. Grab the pedestal, grab the gain, slide the gamma, you get what you're after. And there we go, that face looks great. Now we blend them, as we always would, using masking. Now if you use After Effects a lot, you'll know exactly how to do this, but just to show you a basic approach, what I love about masking is it can be done so quickly. You see people drawing perfect, exact masks like this around every hair and detail, and it takes forever. And then when you try and animate them past footage like that, it takes even longer. I personally don't have the patience, so I'm just going to delete that mask. My preferred method is to draw a very loose, fast mask. I'll show you how this works. I just click, drag, click, drag. I'm just getting a very basic outline here. It takes no time at all. In fact, this is more accurate than I'd normally be. I normally just click, click, click. There we go. Just making sure we're capturing everything that we want to be in the foreground, and click off. Now that doesn't look very good at the moment. Even if I click off so the mask is invisible, it looks crazy. But if we just select that top layer and hit F, and then pull the feathering up, pull that up quite a way, and then click off, you can see that just about works. If you didn't know that there was a mask applied to this, you wouldn't see that feathering. I'm just going to increase it even more, actually. It looks as though she's standing brightly lit in front of a dark background. It particularly helps, actually, that the tree in the background is bright too. Sort of sells the image because there's a full range of tones all the way through it. So obviously we need to animate this mask, so we hit M, click on the mask path stopwatch there, and then go back a few frames and animate our mask. Again, you don't have to be super accurate. You can be if you want, but I just think it's better to be fast and loose and get the project done rather than spend all day getting it absolutely perfect. So some people, when they see me doing this, they say, "Are you really an After Effects expert?" And I say yes, because I get the job done quickly. So there you go. I love the way that looks compared to what we had originally. We just switch everything off. That's a great shot, and I love that flat lighting, weirdly enough, but for a separated image where the actor stands out from the background, masking is the solution.